Good morning. Welcome to a very special edition of To the Tuga, the Everything Portuguese Soccer podcast. Christian, Mitch, I'm Kevin Jesus. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I say it's a very special edition because normally we talk everything Portuguese soccer, but today we are talking just the Portuguese national soccer team because it all comes down to one single game to determine who advances to the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And that is because Portugal and the Republic of Ireland played to a scoreless draw on Remembrance Day, which sets up the big game at the Estádio de Luz, right? It is the Estádio de Luz, right? It was supposed to be Alvalade, then it's the Luz. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Luz, which, full disclosure, I am a sporting fan, as you all know. And Christian is.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I am going to say it.
Don't say it.
I have been to both stadiums. I've seen games in both stadiums. I've toured both stadiums. The Estádio de Luz, by far, the best stadium in Portugal, in my opinion. And that's hey, to give credit to where it is.
We have it recorded. It's on video. Yep. Love it.
Good. Did you walk through the sewer tunnel?
You walk through the stadium? Off to the right start today.
Listen, no shame in saying it. I mean, it is. You walk in there and it's like royalty, right? Like it is pretty fantastic. I mean, the team sucks, but that's okay.
I gotta say their washrooms are pretty good. I went there. I had some tacos.
Oh
My
yeah,
stomach wasn't sitting well.
that'd be fun. Maybe.
Their toilet paper is great. Their water, their washrooms are amazing.
Yeah. But yes, it sets it up. Portugal versus Serbia. The winner advances to the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. A draw, though, is good enough for Portugal. So before we talk about the Serbia game, Portugal, Republic of Ireland. Portugal has never won a competitive game in Dublin. So was it a surprise? What should we, what was your takeaway from the game?
Surprise. Well, if any one of you guys tuned into our last podcast, I mentioned that this is Portugal and we always got to make it hard on ourselves. So was it a surprise? No. But man, should we have done better with the quality and the players we put out? 100%. We should not have to do this anymore. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think we should have just came in there and win that game. There was a comment left by the coach after the game. It went something like this. It was winning 5-0 or drawing in Dublin is the exact same thing to me. That's what he said. Roughly what he was saying. I do not agree with that. I think you got to go in there, make a statement, and you got to win that game. Having that kind of mentality, it just drives me crazy.
No.
Like, why say that?
No, I'm going to jump in here, and then I want to get Mitch's thoughts. I'm going to say no for one reason. He's absolutely right, and I know it's frustrating, and I know we always want to win, and you always want to see that exciting game of football and all that stuff. But he was right. No matter what the result was, barring a loss, we're still in the same boat where a win or a draw gets Portugal through. So it didn't really matter. So my question then that I throw out to you guys, and you guys can debate that if you want, but the question that I'll throw out there, was Fernando Santos right in his strategy thinking about yellow cards going into the Serbia game? Because he had some players that he kind of kept on the bench to start with that could have changed the trajectory of the game. But was that the right decision? Because that kind of goes hand in hand with, does it really matter when you know that full well, the result was going to be the same going into this game?
Yeah, there's a few things to look at. I think when we're looking at this game with Ireland, one was the yellow cards. Fernando Santos talked about it right before the game that he wasn't going to not play players because of yellow cards. He was going to not play players because of mentally how being on a yellow card can affect the player's performance in a game, which I completely agree with, especially in the positions that we had Ruben Dias on a yellow card, we had João Cancelo on a yellow card, we had Palhinha on a yellow card, and we had Jota on a yellow card. I believe Fernando Santos as well was on a yellow card. Yeah. So there's 5 pretty important pivotal players for us that were on yellow cards. And I can agree with Cancelo, Diaz, and actually even Palhinha to a certain extent, and Sanchez, because those positions being on yellow cards, you don't want somebody playing scared in that position. these guys are going into 50-50 balls all the time. It's against Ireland. Ireland's a physical team, and you don't want guys hesitating that those couple of seconds because they don't want to get a yellow card, because they don't want to miss the crucial game against Serbia. And sometimes those hesitations in a game like this can cost you the game, especially in pivotal positions like a right back, a center back, a CDM. So I can understand Fernando Santos' thought process there in not playing some of those players. The point of the matter is we're playing the Republic of Ireland. We shouldn't need, the seleção should not need João Cancelo, Ruben Dias, João Palhinha, Renato Sanches, or Diogo Jota to get a win against the Republic of Ireland. We shouldn't need those players. So they shouldn't have made the difference here. To me, Fernando Santos just got this all wrong again. Like we came from such a high, great performances in the last 2 games, and we're right back to the same shit. And he got this wrong tactically, and it goes to the same things that we talk about time and time again when it comes to Fernando Santos. And I feel that he is a very, very one-dimensional coach. He's got one strategy, a 4-3-3. Doesn't matter how you slice and dice it. You plug and play whatever players you want, but it's a 4-3-3 and a 4-3-3 only. And that's all he knows how to play with this group of players. Ireland plays a very, very specific 3-4-3 style where they sit 2 defensive midfielders very deep that make it difficult for Portugal to play, as we say in Portuguese, entre as linhas, which is where guys like Bruno Fernandes are most effective, because ele faz a ligação between the nosso meio campo and our 3 up front. And all they did was sat 2 guys deep in their half and basically took Bruno Fernandes out of the game. And as soon as you take Bruno Fernandes out of the game, we cannot go forward. We don't have a guy like Bernardo Silva who picks up the ball in the midfield and can beat 1 or 2 guys, or a guy like Renato Sanches that started the game. He didn't start against Ireland. Neither of those guys were on the field where they can take the ball and they can beat 1 or 2 guys, and they can break up that those 2 central holding midfielders that they have that basically disrupt the connection of the game. And then they push 2 wing backs very, very high up, which forces it prevents basically our laterais from pushing up.
Yes.
So it's 2 very important pieces to Fernando Santos' 4-3-3, which is the ligação between the midfield and basically our front 3, and then the use of our left and right backs to get forward, overlapping runs. Those 2 key pieces to that formation working, Ireland completely nullified it. And Fernando Santos didn't react. He didn't change the freaking formation the entire game. He didn't change anything up.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working from the start of the game. You could see it right away. And that's my big frustration with Fernando Santos. He's so one-dimensional, man. And there's no change to his game. There's no change to his tactic. I don't know, man.
100%. And that happened a lot in the last tournament. We were talking about it was all side to side. It was moving it side to side, side to side. There was no players, no direct players, like a guy like Renato Sanches, nobody running at anybody. When a team defends that much, you need some creativity. You need something to open up their team.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was not working. He got the lineup wrong again. And Kevin, I respect you so much, but I disagree with you, man. You can't have that mentality of, let's go in there, we can tie, you can't look past anybody. It's jogo. You got to go in there. You got to plummet Ireland. I don't care if you just need to draw. You need to go in there and play well. You can't have this mentality where we're going to look past Ireland. We're going to think about Serbia. The Ireland game is just as important as Serbia. You can't hold a 0-0 game up until the 80th minute. Ireland could have got plummeted the whole game. All it takes is a cross, a free kick, anything, and we lose that game.
Yeah.
We got to go in there. We got to show our best lineup. We got to go there. We got to win these games. We can't accept this mentality. And it was we can't accept this lackluster mentality after that game. Us winning 5-0 or 0-0, it's the same. It's not the same. Yeah. It's not the same, man. You got to go in there and you got to win. And then you got to hold these players accountable. You got to hold Portugal to a higher standard. I will never expect. I don't want this lackluster mentality in our team. It's a team that's so full of stars, man.
So are you okay then? So let's say Fernando Santos is like, I want you guys to go all out. I demand a win, even though it doesn't matter. The result doesn't matter. It's not going to change what happens Sunday. It's not going to change how the World Cup qualification goes for Portugal. I demand you guys go all out. And all of a sudden, Cristiano Ronaldo is fighting a little bit harder to go after the ball and whatever. He goes and tweaks a knee or something like that. He gets a little bit injured. Then we all turn around and say, what are we doing? Why are we playing these guys? It's just like in any other sport. When a team has already qualified, in Portugal's case, they're already guaranteed a playoff, and you want automatic qualification for sure. No doubt about it. But in a game where it really doesn't matter, you will see teams resting some of their star players simply because you don't want to risk something happen. Now, to Fernando Santos' credit, he didn't rest a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo or whatever. He was just he was looking out for his players with the yellow cards, which Mitch already talked about. But, Christian, you and I will agree on a lot of things. This is one thing that I strongly disagree with. When it doesn't matter, it's okay to take the foot off the gas just a little bit. Now, to your point, I agree. The risk with that is all it takes is one counterattack, Portugal goes down, and now Sunday suddenly becomes a lot more of a difficult situation. Thankfully, that didn't happen. So Portugal now goes into Sunday in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny. But I will say, and you guys have been already started the conversation here about Fernando Santos, he has to change his tactic here. We have to go into the game not to lose. He can't go into the game thinking to play to not lose. Basically, you got to play for at least a point here.
So adding to that point, so now basing on that kind of mentality, now does Fernando Santos set our lineup to draw? All we need is a draw. A draw is the same as a win. So now we go into this game. Okay, all we need is a draw. Let's just defend. Let's sit back. You know what I mean? Like that mentality, I do not agree with.
Historically, that's what
he's going to do. He's going to set his lineup. Now he's going to play two drinks and just close out the game.
Do you want to make a bet here that he's going to start Palhinha with either William or Danilo?
I don't doubt it. Instead of going into this lineup, just with that mentality, I would say, okay, we don't need to win. We need to draw. Let's just go and.
But the difference though is there's no second chances here. The difference is this is a game that if you lose, you're going to a playoff. So I think he does change it a little bit. I do think he's going to be a little bit more conservative. He's not going to want to go all out in the attack because he wants to minimize those counterattacks. And you know that Serbia is going to be gunning hard because they've got the most to lose here. But I do think that it'll be a little bit different than what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, but can you at least see my point where that kind of mentality is? It's. I just don't agree with it.
Of course, because you want to see them win. You want to see them win every game.
When would you see a big national team okay, we're playing Portugal. Let's just play conservative. Let's play 5 at the back. Let's play 2 drinks. Let's not play our game. Let's just sit back, get a result. Or do they come at us and play their game and go in to win?
The problem is that it goes back to us having a small team mentality, and
Fernando Santos
being a small-minded coach. We're Portugal. We are arguably the top 5 to top 3 best national teams in the world. Why are we going into a game against Ireland or a game against Serbia thinking about, we got to adjust our tactics to Serbia should be the one going in there saying we got to play to Portugal's strengths. It's not the other way around. And I can guarantee you, because I'm going to pull it up here, and I'm almost positive we did this the last time. I want to see what the lineup was when we played Serbia last time, and I'm almost positive. So he went with Danilo and Sergio Oliveira and Bruno Fernandes in the middle. I will bet you almost anything. On Sunday, he plays with 2 drinks.
100%.
I will almost guarantee you, because he's thinking about the physicality of the game. Serbia's a big team. They're a strong team, and he's going to want to try to win the midfield battle, and he's going to put either Palhinha and Danilo or Palhinha and William in the middle of the park. I can almost guarantee you. I know him so well in terms of tactically how he thinks.
Yeah.
And that's how he's going to want to go into this game, man.
And another thing I wanted to add it on. So right now we're looking at Portugal. Let's go back to the Euro. we do not have a set 11. Every single game, we do not know what players are coming in.
Christian,
We don't have an identity.
I'm going to ask you a question, okay? When the lineup, when the call-ups were made, we announced it here on the podcast last week. Gonçalo Guedes, not called up. He was not called up.
Yep.
Okay? So, in Fernando Santos' mind, Gonçalo Guedes did not fit into his squad in two of the most important games to get us to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree? Gonçalo Guedes was completely healthy. Him not being called up meant that Fernando Santos sat down, looked at his pool of players, and said, Gonçalo Guedes does not fit into what we need for these two games. Would you guys both agree with that?
100%.
Okay. Gonçalo Guedes got called up because Rafa got injured. Okay? Would you both agree that Rafa is usually not a regular starter for the Seleção?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Usually a super sub.
So it's not like Rafa gets, he's a sub. He's usually a sub. Okay? So Gonçalo Guedes gets called up to replace Rafa. Gonçalo Guedes is in the starting 11. How does a guy go from not even being a part of the plan for these two games to the point of not even being called up to being called up to replace a normal sub and right into the starting 11? This guy has no fucking clue what he's doing. He's shooting from the hip, man. This is what we're talking about when we're saying the team has no identity. He has no clue how the hell to coach this team, man. How does a guy go from not even being a part of the two most important games for World Cup qualification to starting it doesn't make sense to me. But it goes to the point where we say this team has no identity. This is exactly what we're talking about. This guy is shooting from the hip. I don't get it, man. And I love Guedes. Don't get me wrong. I love Guedes. And actually,
And you had his back a lot.
When we saw the call-ups, I said, you know what? I actually probably would have taken Guedes over João Felix because I feel that Guedes was in better form than João Felix right now. They're playing in the same league, and I feel that Guedes is actually in better form right now than João Felix. So I would have called up Guedes over Felix all day. But how does the guy not even – he was not even in the plans to all of a sudden in the starting 11. He has no clue what he's doing.
So I'll ask you guys both a question. Would you rather have called up a player in form or a player that's been there before that's completely out of form? What would you go? So if you have a player coming up that's hot, that's scoring like 5-6 goals in the last 3 games, or would you call up a guy that's not really starting for his team?
It all depends, Christian. This comes down to the identity. It all depends. As a national coach, if you have an identity, you know certain characteristics and you know certain players. We've always talked about chemistry. Chemistry is so important with the national team because you don't have this group of players together on a weekly basis. You're not training these guys on a weekly basis. So more than anything, chemistry is so important. So you need a very consistent group of players that you're calling up on a regular basis and that you're playing so that you're not constantly bringing in fresh faces that are going to fuck with the chemistry of the team.
Yes.
Right? You would agree with that?
Yes.
So it all depends, man. You can have somebody who's really hot versus a guy who might not be in good form. But if that guy who's not in good form is pivotal to kind of gelling the team together in what you normally like to play for your team, you're probably going to call that guy. So it really all depends, man.
So what?
So hold on a second. I'm just gonna jump in here. We have some people watching and some people sending in some comments here. Kevin Gerald, long time no see, buddy. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. He writes in, not defending Santos, but in training before the match, the players fight for a spot to start. Maybe Guedes showed up in training and earned a spot. He's not wrong.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's a great point.
As Christians, it's like, no, I don't want to hear about this.
No, for sure. That's a good point. Training should be as competitive. That's what Ronaldo says. It's one of his biggest quote is you should train as hard and you should play as hard in training as you do in a game. So
Gonçalo Guedes was also the guy, the last game against Ireland, who came on, played lights out, and put in the cross for Ronaldo's last minute. This guy is not somebody who, he's also the guy who scored the winning goal for our Nations League. I mean, this is an important player.
Yes.
Whether he plays hard in training or not, Fernando Santos knows how good Gonçalo Guedes can be. And the fact that he wasn't even considering him for two of the most important games for the World Cup. This guy,
So,
I don't know, man.
Adding on to my point, backtrack a little bit, where I asked you if you should get a player in form or a player that's lackluster.
Yeah.
The best teams in the world, and I'm going to quote Pep Guardiola here, Manchester City team, you cannot pick them on fantasy. You don't know what players are going to play, but they have an identity and a system.
Yeah.
So they have a well-oiled machine, and then they add one player to it. And then they have it keeps going forward, they add one player to it.
Yeah.
Keeps going. We don't have that well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
My point being is he does not have that core yet. He's throwing in this player. He's throwing in this player. He's throwing in this player. Like you even just said, last time against Serbia, Sergio Oliveira William. Now this game, completely different team.
Yeah.
Like we do not have a set core of players. Usually for most national teams, bar one or two players, they can be like, okay, these guys are going to play, and then maybe throw this guy in. We do not have that. Yeah. We're all over the place.
And another one too, and I know you might disagree with this, but to me, Mateus Nunes, great player. I'm glad he's with the Seleção. In a game like this, he never starts, man. He's way too green in the Seleção to be starting a pivotal game where it's almost a must-win to get to the qualification. How does that guy earn a starting spot in R11 over a guy like Ruben Neves?
Yeah.
Or a guy like João Moutinho?
To be fair, he didn't have a good game. Yeah.
Like this guy he's only played one game before.
Yeah. See, but those
are the type of things, man, that if it's a friendly or a game that doesn't matter, I ain't throw him in there. We're talking about a pivotal game, two of the most important games for our World Cup qualification. He's throwing in Mateus Nunes, who's green.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that, I just don't get it, man.
You know what?
There's just decisions
I agree.
At this level don't make sense.
He didn't have a good game, but that goes to the point whereas if we had a well-oiled machine, you shouldn't even be able to notice a player. And when you're in a well-oiled machine, one or two players can have not the best game. We don't have that.
But that's just it, man. He had to sit Cancelo. He had to sit Dias. He had to sit Jota. These are key pieces.
Yes.
So the core, whatever core we have, the somewhat core isn't there. So why are you throwing in even more?
Yeah.
You should, if anything, be trying to put together. If you're going to rest that many players, you should be trying to put a starting 11 together that's as familiar as possible.
Of course.
Not throwing in guys like Mateus.
Yeah, you can't mix up the lineup. They have no chemistry. And that goes back to my point earlier where I would play our strongest lineup. And if you do want to, if some players are on yellow cards, sub them out when you're winning 2-0 or 3-0 at the 60th minute. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in. So this is where I'm like, timeout. Let's go. So you go and play those players who are on yellow cards. And let's say, look, the last time Portugal played the Republic of Ireland before this game, it took until Cristiano Ronaldo late in the game to salvage the win. So let's say you're 25 minutes, 30 minutes into the game, it's still scoreless, but now some of those players have gotten their gotten a yellow card, so now they're going to miss the game in Serbia. That game in Serbia is the one that actually matters, not this one. So now you're going into that game against Serbia without some of these key players. Like, come on, man. That's going to be, as it is already, Portugal's going to be without Pep.
But
that's a big loss.
You're basing it on if we're going to guarantee win or tie. It's never guaranteed that we're going to win or tie. Like we're talking now after we drew 0-0. What if we lost 1-0 off a set piece? We would have been sitting here, it's. I'm just saying, everybody's different. I don't like to look past teams. I don't like to be like, okay, Ireland is a for sure win or for sure point. Let's just concentrate on Serbia. I think that's a dangerous mentality. And if you look, we didn't have the best game. It in a way it failed. I think we can at least both agree on that. That even I was listening to the Irish pundits, they said this was not Portugal. That they're supporting Ireland. They're like, man, to be fair, this wasn't the best Portugal I've ever seen. They had a lackluster performance.
It was a combination of many things. Because to Kev's point, I'm not totally against what he did with sitting Dias and Cancelo. I'm not against that because I don't think Diaz and Cancelo would have made all the difference in this
Cancelo's
game.
lights up.
He is,
I
but
think he would.
he wouldn't have, to me, in my opinion, he wouldn't have made all the difference in this game. Like, again, it comes back to the tactics, the formation, partially some of the player selection, but I'll put the majority of this down to the tactics and his inability to switch it up. Like, he had Ronaldo playing on the wing. Why, man?
Okay, can I just add something real quick?
With Andre Silva, and just let me finish this, and you can jump in. And some people might say, well, he plays on the wing sometimes with Jota and Bernardo Silva. So sometimes when he's playing Ronaldo, Jota, and Bernardo Silva, Ronaldo will play on the wing. Yes, the difference being Jota can play either in the center, he can play on the wing. He's versatile enough. Same with Bernardo Silva. He can play a false nine. Those three individuals can play any one of those three roles. When you're playing Andre Silva up front, Andre Silva is not a winger. His forte is not playing on the wing. He is an out-and-out striker. So when you've got when Ronaldo wants to switch into the middle and you've got Andre Silva playing out on the wing, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And that's again, it goes to the point of he just the player selection and the tactic is not there.
So going to your point, okay, we said Diaz is out, Cancelo's out. So now I'm gonna just paint you a picture here. So now we have Cancelo out, we have Diaz out, we have Matheus Nunes playing, first time starting for a really big game for Portugal. You have Dalot playing left back. That's
not his normal position.
Not his normal position. You have Ronaldo playing winger. That's not his normal position. You have Andre Silva. Yeah, he came in before, but he hasn't been a starter. So that's Andre Silva. That's Ronaldo playing a different position. That's Dalot playing a different position. That's Danilo starting. That's 4 players. That's Diaz not starting. That's Cancelo not. That's 6 players that he rotated. 6 players. That's my point.
Yeah.
That you're switching out 6 players in our second last game to qualify for the World Cup.
Absolutely.
That's my point. It's like this game, yes, we drew. Now in hindsight, we can be like, yeah, I know it worked out. We rested all these players. We have all these players go back. If they scored, which can happen in soccer, man. Yeah. But you see it all the time in the Portuguese league. You see a small team that they fucking defend. They fucking kill the clock. The whole entire game. Yeah. They come up off a corner and they score a dinky goal and they win. Yeah. That's my point. I know we're all different. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I'm just saying that's the way I see it in my brain, is that you should not go into the game already thinking about Serbia. You got to go game to game to game. Yeah. If we lost that game 1-0, we could have outplayed them. Yes, even with that lineup, our quality is way better. And if we lost that game, we would have been like, what the hell, man? Why are you switching out all these players?
And that's a great point, Christian, because if you look at, for example, the last game against Ireland that we played, Ireland played tactically, Ireland played identically to the way they did 2 days ago. So it's not like Fernando Santos, this is the first time he had played them. He already had a preview as to how they play. And in that game, we had 29 shots on net. Do you know how many shots on net we had in the last game?
I think we were even. Yeah.
3.
We had 6 shots. They had 6 shots.
Yeah.
We had 3 on target. They had 2 on target.
They had 2 on target.
Yeah.
There's obviously a huge difference there, man. A huge difference. And to your point, when you're switching up that many players, it fucks with the chemistry.
And already a team that's already struggling to find chemistry.
Absolutely.
Because he's constantly throwing out different players, different positions. Build your core first.
Build your core.
He's the first guy to come out and say, oh, we don't have enough time for training. We don't have enough time to do this and that. But yet every single game he's throwing a new – that just tells me – you know what that tells me? If you – okay, I'm going to say in your business, okay? Every day you're constantly throwing different ideas, different things, every single place, and you don't have a core way of doing things.
Yeah.
That just tells me he's still trying to figure this team out, man. Yeah. He's not confident in his own abilities if he's constantly throwing this and this and this and this player and that player and this player. Oh, I want to try this. He's still trying to find his best 11.
How important is Bruno Fernandes to our seleção?
So important. Any maestro is super important to the team. That's the engine of the team.
He allowed Bruno Fernandes to be completely blocked out of the game until he subbed them off.
Yeah.
How do you allow, as a coach, you're sitting there, you're watching this, you're seeing this, the tactic being deployed by the other team. How do you allow a team to isolate and basically, remove a threat that is so pivotal to your team for 70 minutes and you don't change a goddamn thing? I don't understand it.
Well, I think it comes down to what you guys have said before, is that in the end, Fernando Santos, as much as, he talked about these are the two biggest games, no, he was looking ahead to Serbia, rightfully or wrongly, looking ahead to the Serbia game, because in the end, that is the game that will matter. Even if Portugal would have lost that game against Serbia, a win would qualify them. Right now, we have a little bit more breathing room. We have room for error. We can draw because of the tie against the Republic of Ireland. But in the end, a win is what matters. So he's looking ahead to Serbia. That's what it was looking forward to. So why don't we look ahead to Serbia as well? Portugal is going to go into this game tomorrow. Again, thanks to goal differential, they're in really good shape. They're tied with Serbia at 17 points at the top of the standings. But, they've got a better goal differential by about 4 goals. So in the end, a win, Portugal goes through. A tie, Portugal goes through. A loss, not the end of the world for Portugal. They go to the playoff round. None of us want to see that happen. Portugal seems to do that every big tournament. They shouldn't be going down to a playoff. So we'll have to see what happens. To me, I think they do enough to pull out a W tomorrow. But they're going to have to do it without Pep. How big of a loss is that going to be for this team?
Pep's going to be a massive loss. For our national team, he's been our best defender. I'm not saying he is the best defender. I think Ruben Dias is the best defender. But he's been, our best defender even in the last tournament. He brings that gacha, that team spirit that just drives the team. I think it's a big loss, definitely for us. But that being said, we still should win, man. We have quality. We have so much quality. And to your point, Kevin, do you really trust Portugal? Now we just need a draw, but would you trust Portugal to go in there and easily win that last game if we needed to win? No, man. Portugal always makes it tough. Always. So
they do, but they have the talent. They're the type of team. They remind me of the Oilers in so many ways that when it's games that they need to win, they will turn around and find a way to get it done. Yes. And it's the teams that they, have a tendency to that they should automatically win. They're the ones that they struggle with. Yeah, but I think it's all about mentality, where, again, Portugal had the mentality, thanks to this guy right here, that, listen, it's all about Serbia. Focus on that game. That's the game where we need to get the job done.
So Serbia.
By the way, these pictures are from this morning at practice, by the way.
So Serbia's president announced a €1 million or €1 million bonus to the team if they were able to get the win against Portugal. So these guys are going to come out. They're going to be motivated. And not only motivated to get the win, but now obviously the financial motivation as well. These guys are going to come out, and Serbia is a difficult team to play against when they're on their game. They're very physical. They make it very difficult for us to get going and get our kind of flow going, because they are very physical. The high press, it's not going to be an easy game for Portugal. And I hate that we've left it to a must win like this to get into the World Cup. But there's only one man, in my opinion, there's only one individual that's responsible for that.
Yeah. And can I ask you guys something, both of you? If he loses, does he keep his job?
No.
No?
I think if
mark this day down, Kevin said no.
Yeah. If Portugal loses to Serbia and goes to the playoff round, I think one of two things will happen. They either A, say goodbye to Fernando Santos now, or they say we're going to wait for the end of the playoff round, but then we're going to have a new coach going into the World Cup. I think at that point it's so long. So, it's thank you for everything. It's time to move on. I think that regardless of what happens, even if they win, and I would say even if they win the World Cup, even if they win the World Cup, I think this is the last tournament that Fernando Santos is in charge of the Portuguese national team. I think regardless of what happens, he is done. And I think the World Cup final is on Mitch's birthday. So what a better birthday gift for Mitch than Portugal winning the World Cup and then Fernando Santos saying farewell.
Can I ask you guys something?
Yes.
Do you guys think the players are confident in Fernando Santos?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Yes.
I want to get both your takes on this. Kev?
I 1,000% I do, because I think if they didn't, you would start to see it. I think, number one, Cristiano Ronaldo, whenever he's not happy with a coach, as we've seen in his club days, it shows, and he lets his opinions. He's pretty vocal, and actions speak louder than words, so to speak. You're not seeing that. I think they respect everything that he's done. Again, they're in a tricky situation with Fernando Santos because of the fact that he led them to two titles, and that's something that Portugal has never had. So there is a respect factor there for sure. Rightly or wrongly, I do think that Fernando Santos, the way he looks at it is he's still trying to figure out his starting 11, which is pretty ridiculous after all these years. Yes, he's dealing with injuries that have been coming up. I mean, João Mario had been playing well a little bit. He's knocked up, wasn't able to make this team, so he's got to make some changes there. Yes, he's also having to look at, in his opinion, we have an ability to experiment a bit against the Republic of Ireland because it's the game against Serbia that matters the most. I'll be very curious to see what the lineup is against Serbia. Again, he's going to have to tinker with the lineup because now you're out without Pep. With that said, I do think if the players were really not happy, you would really start to see it in their play. Sure, is there frustration that maybe they're not winning all the games or whatever? Yeah. But at the end of the day, guys, we can sit here, and this is the beauty of it as fans. We can sit here, we can debate all we want. But if Portugal gets the draw tomorrow, Portugal gets the win tomorrow, does it really matter? We've qualified for the World Cup. Mission accomplished. That was the goal. How you got there doesn't matter. Then it's just a matter of trying to tinker and figure out the best path forward going into Qatar. And that's going to be a whole other point because, to your point, Christian, yeah, I agree. It is frustrating to tinker, but there is going to be a lot of tinkering. And I would suspect every national team is going to tinker next year because, unlike any other tournament, which comes at the end of a season, you're coming into one in peak form. So now you're going to be able to adjust those lineups completely different than you would at the end of a season. So I think you're going to see a lot more tinkering, regardless of who is the coach of Portugal, regardless of what national team. But anyways, those are my 2 cents. Christian, I know you disagree. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
Okay, there's this famous saying in the trades that they always say is that if everybody if everybody likes you as a manager, you're not doing your job. You should be ruffling a few feathers. You should be hard on the plate, not hard, not like George Juice style, but you should set structure. You know what I mean? If everybody likes you, they're having a good time. Sometimes that's not the best. You got to set structure. Like Xavi Alonso. Did you hear what his 10 rules that he set with Barcelona?
No.
He went in there. I'm probably going to butcher some of them, but they have curfews now. They have to be, if you're late for practice, you have to pay a fine. You can only eat at the facility. There's multiple rules he set in place. Okay, is that going to ruffle some feathers? Of course. Oh, who the hell is this guy? With Coleman, we can go in there. We can come whenever we want. We can eat wherever we want. It was all fun and games. Oh, now we got to run. Who is this guy? Sometimes if all the players like you and it's all, happy-go-lucky, sometimes that's not good. Sometimes you got to, be structured.
So does that mean then Fernando Santos is great because you don't like him? I like him. So there's obviously disagreement. So that means he's good.
No, I'm not saying that's who Fernando Santos is or isn't.
Yeah.
I'm just referring to the point where is if the players like him or not.
Yeah.
I don't think that should matter.
I like him. I'm asking, do you think that the players are confident that, like, when you've played soccer before, we've all been in a game where you look at the lineup and the tactic before the game, and in your head, you're not saying it out loud, but in your head, you're saying, I don't agree with what the coach is doing. But I've had coaches where, even though I might not agree with the tactic that the coach wants to deploy before the game, I'm confident in his ability as coach that he's seeing something tactically that I don't. that I believe in him. I'm asking when he's putting out those lineups, when he's putting out those tactics, are the players, even in their mind, if they're disagreeing with him, are they in the sense that I'm okay, I'll play because as a player, you have a different way and a different mentality going into the game. If you don't believe in the coach, when you go out there to play, your play will show it because you're already in your head. You're not agreeing with the tactics that the coach is employing because you don't agree with him and you might not feel the confidence. But if you're confident in the coach, regardless of whether you agree with the tactic or not, you believe in whatever he's seeing. So you're going to go out there and you're going to play your heart out. That's what I'm saying. Now, I'm not talking about liking him or not liking him. I'm talking about, do they have the confidence in his tactical ability in order to deploy whatever he's telling them to?
So I want to answer that question, but I want to add on to it too. So not only are they looking at, like, for the example you gave me with your coach, right? Imagine you had a different coach that's the best coach in the world. So imagine you're going to a team like Manchester City where tactically and they check all the check marks. And then you go to a coach like Fernando Santos. It's going to add on to be like, man, this guy, the quality isn't there. So adding on to your point, no, I don't. I think there's a lot of players that don't think he's good enough. Especially when you have a coach like, when you go back and you fly back to England and you have a coach like Guardiola, I'm sure they see the difference. I'm sure they see how Guardiola trains and what they got to do and the competition he sets. And he goes to Fernando Santos, like, man, this guy's completely different, man. Over here.
To be fair, we don't know. We don't
know. I'm just assuming. I'm just assuming.
Again, and to answer my own question, I don't know, because I think, putting myself in their shoes, again, not being in training, but just looking from the outside looking in, even if I don't agree, I'm sitting there saying, this guy has won 2 trophies for the Seleção. There's obviously something he knows or he sees that I don't. So I gotta trust him. And I think that is the only thing that Fernando Santos has that right now is still keeping the confidence and trust of the players in his ability to do the job, is that he's got those 2 titles.
So yeah, just adding
that
on
only
to that.
goes so far, and that's why Absolutely. I think we're all in agreement that this is the end of this tournament. Will be it'll be a natural end because it's almost certainly going to be Cristiano Ronaldo's last. So it's kind of a clean break and then move on. I want to make a point about that a little bit later, but just because we're talking tactics and all that stuff, let's see how you guys would approach Sunday's pivotal game against Serbia. So we have here Christian's lineup. Let me just take the banners off here just so we can see here. So this is what Christian's starting 11 would be. Christian, take us through it.
Yeah, so because there's certain players here that go without saying, obviously. Like a player like Cancelo, he was my side just started last week. He had 5 assists in 2 games. 5. And not only that, he's taken social media by storm. We have a guy like I think it was Neville saying when he coached Valencia, he could see how talented this guy was. He's absolutely unreal. And going earlier, what you said, there's no players running at anybody and opening up space. I feel like Cancelo is that guy. He could play right back. He could play left back. You could drop this guy up at right wing if you want to. He's unreal. So I think he's going to be very important. Ruben Diaz, one of the best center backs in the world. It's between him and Van Dijk.
Hey guys, I'm just going to jump in. Hold that thought. Very special hello to Nikola Dimkovic from Serbia, who is tuning in, and they say hello from Serbia as they tune into this podcast.
How you guys doing?
So
nice to see you.
If I knew how to say hello in Serbian, I would. So
I'd say this. Razdovia. Cheers.
Here we go. Good luck tomorrow. You're going to lose, but good luck anyways.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to our lineup now.
Yeah, so going back to what I was saying about Diaz, he's one of the best in the world. Jeff Font, a guy full of experience as part of that Euro-winning squad. I feel like I'd pick him over Danilo just because that's his actual role, and I think that experience, he'll play a pivotal role. I like Nuno Mendes there. He's been starting every game with PSG, one of the biggest clubs in the world. I feel like he's really fast along those wings. His work rate is very high. He can go up and deliver a lot of crosses to Ronaldo and other attacking players. I think that's what I'd go with. Palhinha, he's a sweeper. Like anywhere that goes there, he'll go. He'll slide tackle. His work rate's through the roof. I'd pick Renato Sanchez there. I feel like he should be a shoo-in. I know injuries have sort of held him back, but he's a great box-to-box. Another guy with extremely high work rate. This guy will run up and down the field like no other. He's a ball winner. Also, he can open up a lot of spaces. And I think those two guys between Palhinha and Renato Sanchez will free up a lot of room for a guy like Bruno Fernandes, which we've talked about, that has to play in his best area, which is that cam role.
Yeah.
Diogo Jota has been scoring at will for Liverpool. I think he should be a shoo-in at this point. He's very dangerous at front. Bernardo Silva, he is one of the main guys at Manchester City right now.
Yeah.
He is playing lights out. I'm just praying that he could bring that to the national team. Same with Bruno Fernandes. He's a shoo-in. I think he's going to help us a lot on that wing. And Ronaldo is Ronaldo. I don't have to say anything about him. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
You'd think I'd get the hang of this by now. Pretty straightforward. Let's bring in Mitch's lineup here. Let me just zoom it to fit. Mitch, pretty similar, but you're making a change because you don't like Nuno Mendes.
Well, you know what? I do like Nuno Mendes. Normally, I would have gone with Nuno Mendes, but I was actually really impressed with Dalot. He was, in my opinion, one of the best players on the field for Portugal against Ireland. He actually played very well at left back. So you know what? He played well. Keep it going. That's really the only change. Very similar. Kind of to Christian's point, I would go with Font over Danilo. However, I think Fernando Santos might be thinking about who Serbia will play up front. They've got that kid Vlahovic from Fiorentina, 21 years old. He's been really hot lately. He's a pacey player. I don't know, if he's going to be thinking about that. Maybe Danilo has a little bit more legs to potentially keep up with him than Font does. So that might play into it slightly. But also Mitrovic is a big, bulky forward, so they want somebody in there with size. So potentially Danilo and Diaz might be a better dupla at the back than Font. It'll be interesting to see how Fernando Santos thinks about that, but I think that'll definitely play into the selection. In the midfield, I think we absolutely need a bull like Fernando Santos in there. His ability to hold up the ball. Again, this is going to be a physical game. Serbia is a physical team. So having Palhinha and Santos in there to me makes sense. But Santos, aside from his physical ability, his ability to hold up the ball, he's also got that burst of speed that I think is going to be really important to make that Liga sound, to get Bruno Fernandes involved in this game. I really think that's going to be important for us. And having Jota back in the lineup and Bernardo Silva, huge for Portugal. What a difference those two guys can make on our team right now, especially because both of them are in very, very good form at club level. I think having them back in the lineup is going to be a big difference. It's going to make a big difference in this game. So I really, really hope we're singing a different tune when we come back on our next podcast, and that Portugal came out and played the way we've seen them play in the last couple of games, Ireland aside, because if they do that and we come out and we play the way that we know we can play, I think Portugal will get a comfortable victory.
So can I just add on to that? So these are our lineups, okay, that we think we should that they should play. Well, we think Fernando Santos is going to play. That's a completely different lineup. The Tutrings is almost a shoo-in. I really hope not. I really, really hope not.
Just put all the names in a hat and he'll just start picking them out and he'll be like, there's our lineup today.
If he does go with Danilo at the back with Diaz, which he very well might, I could see him going with Palhinha and William in the midfield.
And to be fair to Font, I don't remember a time where he's been a liability for us.
No,
I can't, looking
yeah.
back years and years and years, I can't remember a time. Maybe there is, but I can't remember off the top of my head where we're like, man, Font should have had there. That was Font's ball. So I think
my only thing is on
no,
the speed,
you're right.
on the speed aspect, especially with that.
No, you're 100% right with your analysis, especially because Serbia has a lot of big bodies, man. They're all big boys.
And our friend from Serbia here, though, says they need to improve their defense if they hope to get a W against Portugal. So
that's going to be
interesting to see.
That's going to be the biggest, I think, point of attack.
And adding on to Serbia, they have a player that's like in super, super high form right now. And his name's Tadic. He's been playing lights out for Ajax. Ajax is one of the hottest teams in Europe right now. Watch out for Tadic.
Mitrovic is in form for fall. I mean, they've got some weapons up front. There's no doubt.
Yes.
So we're kind of up against it with time here. So really quick, predictions for tomorrow's game: Portugal, Serbia again. Winner goes to the World Cup. Loser ends up going into a playoff to be determined, and a draw is enough for Portugal. Mitch, what do you got?
I'm going to go 2-1 Portugal.
2-1 Portugal.
Tight game, but 2-1 is my prediction.
Christian.
So I'll tell you, Fernando Santos plays his formation with the Tutrinch. I think it's going to be 0-0 or 1-1. That's the classic Fernando Santos win. If he plays our lineup, I could see us same result, 2-1 Portugal.
And I'm going to go with 3-1 Portugal because Serbia will end up being desperate because they're going to need to try and get the W. They have to get the W. So there's going to be room for some counterattack. So I think Portugal will just get some offensive going. The one thing I did want to say before we leave, we talk about Fernando Santos. Obviously, a lot of us think if they lose tomorrow, it could be the end of the road. Regardless of what happens at the end of this tournament, at the end of the World Cup next year, we think it's the end. Just thinking ahead to who could be a possible replacement or whatever. Let's say Portugal loses tomorrow. Let's say they say, no, we want someone new for the playoff. Do you turn to someone like Nuno Espírito Santo? He's available.
I honestly, I think he actually came out on social media saying in August he was actually rated, Premier League Manager of the Month, and then a couple months later he's sacked.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he would do a pretty good job. I do think he would do a better job than Fernando Santos, but he's not the only option. He's not the only option. A guy like Rui Jorge, as we mentioned a lot, he knows the youth system. All those players that are on our team went through him. I think he's definitely an option, and Nuno Espírito Santo is not another option. That
Christian, does he know Jota from Celtic? Because if he does, he's got my vote.
Actually, there's talks. They came out and said that he can play in a team like Barcelona. There's a couple coaches that came out and said he's definitely playing really well. But
I'm telling you guys, it's a name. That's the name you're going to hear forever.
Okay,
Mitch, what do you think?
I mean, I've always been a fan of Nuno Espírito Santo. Does he have what it takes to pick up the seleção and it's always a crapshoot, man. There's different ways to look at it, but I definitely like the work he did at Wolves. I was a big fan of the Wolves team. Obviously going to a bigger team like Tottenham, he wasn't successful. I think they sacked him a little early. I think it was a bit unfair.
That's desperation.
I feel like a guy like that needed a little bit more time to get the players to understand what he wanted from them. But at the same time, was it Nuno Espírito Santo, what he did with Wolves worked because they were a small club, and the tactic that he deployed was very much a counter-attacking type of football, and that just didn't work with a bigger team, with bigger names, with more talent. There's an argument that could be made for that as well. So, it really all depends how you look at it. There's another name out there that's been thrown out there, André Villas-Boas. He's also been talked about potentially leaving Marseille and taking on a national team. So, he could also be a potential candidate.
Some of the arguments you made there, though, Mitch, about Nuno Espírito Santo, about like being too, the counterattack, all that stuff. Those are some of the arguments people made about Fernando Santos when they first announced him as manager, saying, "Oh, he's too defensive and all that stuff," and then it ended up working for Portugal, which he was very defensive. Hey, doesn't matter how ugly the game is. You get the win, you win the title. That's all people will remember. Christian, you have one final thought here before we wrap it up?
Yes, I'll be quick. I know we're short for time here, but I'm going to paint you guys a picture again. So if Fernando Santos got sacked from Portugal, do you think a team like Tottenham would have picked him up? Fernando Santos?
No, you can't.
I'm just saying.
That's not fair.
If Nuno Espírito Santos and Fernando Santos is available, and you're a team right now, would you pick up Fernando Santos? No, he's not good enough. And another thing,
but he's not a club manager. I'm just
saying the quality. Okay,
that's like saying
he was a club manager. He actually
he hasn't been for a while.
And
all three big clubs.
Anyways. That's one. Two, Nuno Espírito Santo sort of came into a tough team because a guy like Harry Kane, he had that contract negotiation that just completely killed his confidence. He's completely underperforming. So it was just the perfect storm too, because he came into that team. He's not his best players. His morale is completely down, and he just couldn't grasp that team. I think it was tough. Also, another reason why I think he got sacked is a guy like Conte was available. And he's an amazing manager. So I think that also played into account. It was a perfect storm, in my opinion.
All right. Well, thanks as always for a good debate. You're wrong as always, Christian. That's okay.
I love you too, Kevin.
But let's hope we're all smiling and laughing after tomorrow, except for our friend Nikola Demkovic, which, by the way, again, thanks for tuning in from Serbia. Nikola writing in, loves Portugal. We'll probably go on a holiday in your country. If you do, go and tour the entire mainland because it's some of the great places to go and check out. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks to everyone, even Joshua Botelho from the foreign land of Edmonton. But thanks everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Portugal, Serbia tomorrow, winner take all. Draw is good for Portugal. And if it's a loss, well, there'll be fireworks the next podcast when we talk to you next time. So Christian, Mitch, I'm Kevin. Thanks so much. Força Portugal. Enjoy, everyone.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao.